This meeting is being recorded. This meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our first session of Wandering Through the Big Book. This is something we started in February of 21, and we went through 65 sessions, I believe, and we started recording somewhere in the middle. So we're going back and recording the first ones, and I think we'll be doing this for 33 sessions. I hope we'll be doing it every Sunday, but I know there are going to be some Sundays when I won't be able to. And and this morning I'm going to go back through those opening words just to point out some things, and we're going to take a look at the study guide. And if there's time, we're going to get to the symbol of the triangle inside the circle and what that can mean in terms of having a balanced program. And then let's see. So opening words, the study guide, and the circle and the triangle. But the first thing I want to do is read this poem by Mary Oliver. This was just striking for me. And so, Messenger by Mary Oliver. My work is loving the world. Here the sunflowers, there the hummingbird, equal seekers of sweetness. Here the quickening yeast, there the blue plums. Here the clam deep in the speckled sand. She was from Cape Cod. Are my boots old? Is my coat torn? Am I no longer young and still not half perfect? Let me keep my mind on what matters, which is my work, which is mostly standing still and learning to be astonished. The phoebe, the delphinium, the sheep in the pasture and the pasture, which is mostly rejoicing, since all the ingredients are here, which is gratitude, to be given a mind and a heart and these body clothes, and a mouth with which to give shouts of joy to the moth and the wren and the sleepy dug-up clam, telling them all over and over how it is that we live forever. So I wanted to read that because it's true for me. I do believe that my work is loving the world in spite of whatever, and my real goal is to learn to be astonished. As a result of this program, I feel that I really only have two alternatives. One is resentment and fear and remorse, and the other is awe and gratitude. And I'm not claiming to be in awe and gratitude all the time, but I am claiming that's how I want my life to show up. And one of the things that's happened since starting this thing is I've gotten involved in the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius, and this is going to come up more and more. But that's one of their themes. That my sponsor taught me that every time the book said attitude, I was to think about how it works. HOW, honest, open, and willing. That the attitude that I was to try to bring to this work I am very capable of fooling myself. Openness, which is the reverse of contempt prior to investigation, which the spiritual appendix says is the only thing that will prevent all spiritual. Contempt is me judging something rather than be open to what it's trying to tell me. And the third is willing, and this is key because I'm convinced that most of us do not want to do this work. We just do not want to look at our lives. We don't want to look at ourselves. We don't want to look at our goals, our human agenda, whatever. and that it takes serious willingness to be able to do this stuff. So so anyway, the purpose for me reading that, I think there are 3 lines in that poem that jump at me. One is that my work is loving the world instead of resenting the world, and I am I am 76 years old, and I can tell you I've been more resentful than I have been grateful for probably 74 of those 76 years. It's just been in the last couple of years that I would say today gratitude is bigger than resentment. Not to say I don't get annoyed, but gratitude is bigger than resentment. So that's one. The second is this idea of standing still and learning to be astonished. I just think that's a mind blower. To be astonished by my being here and my interacting with whatever the world involves and you and everything. And then the third is that I'm not sure what she meant, but how it is that we live forever, I believe means that I have a body and a mind and a soul. And my soul has been a minor part of my life for most of my life. And I have lived under the tyranny of my body and my mind. And I'm convinced, number one, that my body and my mind are temporary conditions. They have a certain lifespan. I have no idea what it is. But I'm convinced that my soul has I'm not going to say eternal, but it's a much longer lifespan than my body and my mind. And I know I did not create my soul. I know that down in my soul. And I believe that our 11th step is saying that because that first in the opening words, that one with Dr. Silkworth, I urge every alcoholic, though you may have come to scoff, to practice contempt prior to investigation. How many of us come into AA full of doubt and pain and hurt and no idea what's actually going on in our lives, what's happened. And I urge every alcoholic that though perhaps you came to keep on contempting prior to investigating, you will learn how to pray. Prayer is everything. My experience is that this is about establishing the conditions necessary that I can live in 10, 11, and 12 all the time. That I am learning how to pause, which is what step 10 does. I'm learning how to ask and listen, which is what step 11 does. And I'm learning to act in accordance with what I'm guided to do, which is step 12. And that last reading, number 5, promises me that if I will humbly rely on this, whatever the hell it is, this higher power thing, and if I will act in accordance with what that higher level of being, of consciousness, of wisdom, of love, of whatever, if I will act in accord with that, I am promised. You could call this where is it? It's a 4th step promise. It's on the fear page 68. I am promised that I will experience serenity. Now, I don't know what that means to you, but to me, it means patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. It means that I'm not reacting to the world with resentment, fear, and remorse around my selfish behavior. I am promised that I will experience serenity right smack dab in the middle of the calamity. And I've experienced this enough to know it's not true, but I mean, to know it is true, but I am still triggered by the calamity. And when the calamity happens, I seem to jump back into my human nature and react. So I just want to run through these opening words and point out a couple of things. And okay, so this is not AA. It's just important for me to say. We give the reasons why this is not run the way a normal AA meeting is. So if you hear something and well, I heard in an AA meeting, can't do that. We're not claiming this is AA. Primary purpose. So for me, taking seriously this notion of primary purpose has made an enormous difference in the last couple of years for me. When I am clear and committed to my primary purpose, it's easier to make decisions and it's easier to handle the calamity, because I can, if I'm making decisions in accord with, does this contribute to my primary purpose or does this detract? It just makes all the difference. I have struggled all my life making decisions, and so I really pay attention when step 11 talks about hunches, inspiration, intuitions, and that this gradually becomes a working part of the mind. That is really good stuff for me, because I mostly make decisions based on the intellect, and I know today how deceiving the intellect can be. So primary purpose, and this is a huge thing in the Jesuits. This guy, St. Ignatius, said early in the exercises, your primary purpose is to love, honor, and serve your Creator, and thereby do the work that your soul came here to do. And he goes on to say, so it really doesn't matter what happens with your body and your mind. Doesn't matter if you have a long life, a short life, a healthy life, a sick life, a rich life, a poor life, an honored life, or a disgraced life. He's really saying, don't focus on the human part. Try to focus on the spiritual part, and what needs to happen will happen. So, and I think there's a section in the study guide that talks about a prayer for every step. And I feel, for me, the step 11 prayer is praying for the awareness of why my soul is here, incarnated in a human body. What is my soul's work? And I came into AA thinking I knew quite a lot. And I grasped, I can't say it, these our work theoretically. I understood it. I took it seriously. I memorized things, and so, but let's see, I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, the primary purpose of step 11, I don't know what my soul is here to learn. I can find that out by the things that I constantly struggle with. I struggle with an over-attachment to financial well-being. I always have, all my life. And so, for Ignatius to come along and say, it doesn't matter, that's a struggle for me, because I have people I feel responsible for and things that I want to do. So I don't know, I'm getting off a little bit, but okay. So our primary purpose, the primary purpose of these sessions is really threefold. It's primarily to get you grounded in the big book. And you may be grounded already or feel you're pretty well grounded, but we're going to pay a lot of attention to some very specific thoughts on different pages. So the primary purpose is to dig into this book at a deeper level than most of our AA meetings do. And then secondarily, the reason for us doing that is to deepen and strengthen your recovery. That's the first thing, to make your experience in AA, I don't want to say better, but just deeper. That's enough, deeper. Secondarily, it's in some ways you could say that this is about big book sponsorship. This is about how to use the book to bring yourself through the steps, but also to bring another through the steps. You know, if you act on these directions and you experience spiritual benefit from that, and then somebody comes up to you and says, well, I'm new and I think I need some help. I'm hoping you'll say, I'm ready. You know, all we have to do is sit together and read this book line by line, page by page, starting with the doctor's opinion, or better yet, with the forwards to the first and second editions, and then do what it says to do, because we're promised. You know, every step, it starts with why you should do this step, then it goes to how you should do it, and it ends with the promises that you're going to get from doing it. And you know, our meetings focus on the 9th step promises. That's the tip of the iceberg. Those are one set of promises, but they're all through the damn thing. They're stated on lots of pages, just like this 4th step promise, just to the extent that you rely on God and behave the way you think God wants you to behave. You know, I have a little prayer, and the heart of it is, God, I want to be the person you want me to be, not the person I want me to be. You know, it says also on 68, which has become a major page for me, we are in this world to play the role God assigns. Well, you've taught me to read this book with 3 assumptions. One is, it's not an intellectual treatise by a man named Bill Wilson, that it's a spiritually inspired book. 2, every statement in the book is the truth of their experience, the people that wrote the book, the 40 people that wrote the book back in 1938. And that my job is to take their statement and turn it into a question and ask myself, is this true for me? So an example would be, we are in this world to play the role God assigns. If I turn that into, am I in this world to play the role God assigns? You know, I'm not going to use a bad word, but my answer is hell no. You know, I'm in this world to play the role I'm trying to live a designer life here. And under the theory that if I can get everything perfect in the world out there, I will feel okay in here. I've been trying to do this all my damn life. You know, get out there perfect so I can feel good inside. Some people call this trigger management. You know, you're trying to manage your life by managing the triggers. And if you can just stay away from the triggers, the theory is you'll have a happy life. So I'm here to tell you, it's never worked. It's never worked once. It's never worked for more than 5 or 10 minutes. And that had to be with the influence of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Or in my case, boating. I love to boat, so I feel good on the water. Okay, so we're in this world to play the role God assigns. I think that further down the page, when it says that I am to humbly rely on God, that's to tell me, what role do you want me to play? And so the work for me is, I want to be the person you want me to be, not the person I want me to be. So, primary purpose, taking an in-depth look at this book and trying to learn how to use it, not only to deepen our own experience, but to help another to do the same. And I'm here to tell you that I have learned 100 times more from trying to help another than I ever learned in my first run through the book with my sponsor. 100 times. And, when people, I hope I don't offend anybody, when people say you got to give it away to keep it, I feel for me that would be a very arrogant statement. Have I got something, that I'm going to keep by giving? My experience is I got to give it away to really get it. Glenn and I have had a number of discussions about working with others, and we keep reminding each other that, the primary motivation for me working with you is for me. It's not for you. You work with another because they said right from the start, there's a moment coming up in this thing where we'll read the story of Bill and Bob and AA number 3, and it's Bob that gets it going. Bob says, we got to get working with others if we're gonna keep this thing. And Bob is two weeks sober, and Bill is 6 months sober. They don't have meetings. They don't have the book. They don't have the steps. They got nothing. They're really flying on their Oxford group experience, and they go talk to this guy. And if you want a lesson in working with others, read AA number 3. It's right after Dr. Bob's story. Anyway, okay, so here we are. It's 9 o'clock, and I'm at primary purpose. Sorry, but that's the way this goes. So today I'm giving myself license to just wander. Pretty quickly, we're going to get into the study guide, and which I hope to talk about, into the study guide and start. This is not a forced march. This is a wandering, but it will have a overriding schedule, which is simply moving through the book from the doctor's opinion through to a vision for you. So our primary purpose is taking in-depth look at the book Alcoholics Anonymous to strengthen our own recovery, to try to help other people to do the same. And then there's a third aspect to this. This is my hope for these sessions, and that is to make you a better member of the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. So 3 things here. We're trying to deepen our own recovery, help another do the same, and try to become good members of our fellowship. Because if we don't, the fellowship, it'll wander on. I don't know what your experience is. My experience is meetings very often get stuck. They get stuck. They're controlled by a number of old timers that have been there forever, and they're comfortable. They're not really doing much, but they're comfortable, and they massage and manage the meeting so they can stay comfortable. And I don't think that's good AA, personally. But that's an opinion. So part of this thing is to try to help you, if you choose to do so. It's not a requirement, but if you choose to do so, to become a better member of a contributing member of the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And so I've had some experience recently with people that come out of treatment centers, and this is big for me. I got probably a dozen, and they really attribute their sobriety to the treatment center. And then what happens is they superficially get involved with AA. They don't really dig into it, and that's what's making me try to bring up this notion of one of my goals, whether or not it's your goal, is to try to make you more effective members of local AA. You know, last weekend I was at a men's retreat at the Wilson House in East Dorset, Vermont. And it was quite an experience. I only knew there were 28 men. I only knew one. One of the most moving things was we wound up individually praying the third step prayer at Lois and Bill's gravesite. I mean, a circle of men, and each one by one, kneeling down and saying the third step prayer. It was something. And at the end, our last session on Sunday was a kind of a wrap up, and we were each to reflect on what we're taking out of the retreat. And almost to a man, the complaint that I heard was, I don't get anything like this in my local AA. That they had to come to this retreat and get removed from their daily life and be in these special conditions to get this kind of inspiration. And I think that's a tragedy. I think these events are wonderful. You know, I've been active. There's several people on here, including George and Robin, that have been active in our Maine-based Fellowship of the Spirit, Northeast Fellowship of the Spirit. It's an awesome experience for people, there's no question. But I'm hoping, one of my goals, as I said, is to get that kind of experience more into our local AA. Okay, let's see if we can get anywhere. Okay, so then that's what I mean by trying to help others to do the same and to try to become trusted servants of our fellowship. It's placing the fellowship first. In the Catholic Church, it's called the Church. In Buddhism, it's called the Sangha. In the Fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, it's called the Fellowship. So then this statement, we're seeking conscious contact by trusting God, cleaning house, and helping others. If you're new, and there are some new people here, and at noon today, I'm going on to a Zoom meeting at a treatment center. And, I've been thinking about what am I going to say? And, and I'm remembering hearing a man that when I was a beginner, and he said, you have no idea what's going on here. You are like a person who has been in a train wreck and you're wandering down the tracks. You have no idea what has happened and you have no idea what to do. And the truth is, this is a slow learn. This is anybody that gets to double digits or their 20s or their 30s in this program will tell you. Chuck Chamberlain himself, Chuck C., A New Pair of Glasses, he said his greatest spiritual growth had been in his last 5 years. This was at 40 years sober. And I can say that without doubt. This is a continually growing thing. Just as alcoholism is a progressive fatal disease, it only gets worse. It never gets better. That's a fact. So too is recovery, a progressive, ever upward thing, the quantity and quality of serenity will grow. You know, that the one of the 10th step promises is we will feel safe and protected. I've been looking for that all my life. And I've gotten glimmers enough to know what I need to do. And the reason is that I believe that my soul, because it is created by God and literally connected to God and in the hands of God, and it has eternal life, I do not believe my soul is alcoholic. I believe my body and my mind sure are. I'm not a normal safe drinker. My body does not tell me to stop, and my mind needs relief so bad that it hides that fact from my being. I keep telling myself, "Oh, a drink will make this better, and I'll stop at 3," and never could. But I believe my soul is eternal and is safe and protected. That I can't, and it's why Ignatius says it doesn't matter what happens to your body, your soul is fine. And I've read a lot of books. There's a book out there called Journey of Souls by a doctor named Michael Newton, Newton. And he's cataloged over a 20-year period, he's cataloged these people's experiences of soul consciousness and what happens after we die. We essentially, we go to soul school. And it's very much like AA. We're in little home groups and we're learning stuff. It's really remarkable. I mean, you ask yourself, well, which came first, our system here on the planet or, soul school? I don't know the answer. And I don't know, the system on the planet may have come from soul school. How do I know? And you'd say, well, this is just a projection of one person's mind, but he's getting this from hundreds of people. So I'm getting off, but I doubt that my body and mind are ever going to feel safe and protected. I feel my soul always feels safe and protected. It knows it's eternal. It knows it doesn't matter what happens to the body and the mind. Okay, so the point is that in this interpretation of the book and the steps, the goal is 10, 11, and 12 every day, and the promise is serenity. We do steps 1 and 2. This is a Joe and Charlie thing. We do steps 1 and 2 as an exchange of information between the book and a person or a sponsor and a person, with the goal of defining the disease of alcoholism from a physical standpoint, a mental standpoint, and a spiritual standpoint, with a view to you admitting to your innermost self you are a real alcoholic, that you meet the 3 categories. And that step 2 is really about understanding the treatment plan for the physical part, the mental part, and the spiritual part. And we'll go all through this. This is page 20 in the introduction that hopefully you've printed out, but I'll try to encourage you. I can't believe it's 10 after 9. I'm not getting anywhere. It's page 20 of this introduction, that first PDF, if you've succeeded in printing it out. So 1 is the definition of alcoholism. 2 is a glimmer of the solution, which is a spiritual solution. It's not a physical solution. It's not a mental solution. It's a physical solution. It's a spiritual solution. And the way we say that is in the ABCs. B, that no human power is going to relieve my alcoholism. What that's saying is nothing of the body or the mind is going to solve your problem. This is about having a relationship with God, period. Whatever you call it. I mean, that's important. It ain't the God of your ancestors. Okay, so, and step 3 is the decision to treat the disease. Step 3 means you understand how we're going to treat the allergy. And the only way you can treat the allergy is don't drink. Don't take the first drink. The mental part is the self-examination, the self-disclosure, the making of amends, the seeking guidance in how to make amends. That's all stuff we do to get this thing called conscious contact. And when you've got conscious contact and you know that God is not a lie made up by people trying to control your life, everything changes. Everything changes. And it's unfortunate that oftentimes you'll hear people say, well, I did the steps and now I'm maintaining my spiritual whatever, maintaining my spiritual condition. You know, I want to get right in their face. Hey pal, this does not say sought through prayer and meditation to maintain our spiritual condition. You know, it does not say that. It says improve. And that improvement has no bottom or top. That goes on forever. So we're trying to get to conscious contact. That's the purpose of 4 through 9. We say trust. Don't I say that somewhere here? Trust God, clean house, help others. Trusting God is the decision to seek a spiritual solution. Cleaning house is steps 4 through 9. Helping others is 10, 11, and 12 on a daily basis. Okay, I'm determined to get through this thing. So we talked about Silkworth, the doctor's prayer. Earnestly advise every alcoholic, though perhaps you came here to do your usual thing, judge everything, and I don't need that. You will remain to learn how to pray. Number 2, about conditions. This is an old Oxford group principle that if you want something to happen, your first job is establishing the conditions. You know, the first job in sponsorship is establishing the conditions under which the relationship can work. It's a major part of making amends. You've got to establish the conditions before you are going to be able to make a successful amend. That may mean different things in different relationships. But this idea of I need to establish the conditions, and this, you know, no attitude of holier than thou. No fees to pay, no axes to grind, no people to please, no lectures to be endured. That's why we call this short lecture to be endured, because this is a lecture. These are the conditions we're after. And also this thing, be quick to see where religious people, we're all quick to see where they're wrong. So we're not able to take advantage of all that they do. This number 3, I think, is the most important. If you're trying to help a new person, whether or not you get them to a 3rd step decision to treat their disease, I think it's crucial that you get them to understand these 2 alternatives. It's a wonderful page. It comes from page 25. And it starts with, there is a solution. Nobody likes it, you know, and then it is a statement of what a spiritual experience means. When they say I say, I have had a deep and revolutionary spiritual experience, which has changed my whole reaction to life. 100%, 110, 1,000%. And then at the bottom, it says, you know, if you're a real alcoholic, if you got the allergy, you got the mental blank spot, and you have no relationship with God, you only get two choices. Most of us are looking for a middle way, one of the hallmarks of the Buddhist path, looking for a middle way, and this is saying, don't waste your time looking for a middle way. You are either living in resentment, fear, and remorse, and you're just trying to get to the end of whatever you think the end is by blotting out of your mind how much your life sucks, or going through this process, going through this difficult, tedious process that we do. And then step 3 is the decision to go through that. So if you're new, this is about first getting to sobriety, because that's a challenge for most all of us, and we're powerless over our need to drink, over our seeking of relief through something. And then getting to sanity, recovering your sanity, which means a sane and wholesome reaction to life. And then serenity, which, by the way, is not a goal, it's a byproduct. What that number 5 is saying is, to the extent that I will humbly rely on God and behave the way I think God wants me to behave, as a byproduct, I'm going to experience serenity in spite of the calamity. Not as a goal, but a byproduct. So if I'm not experiencing serenity, the question is, well, which part of that little formula? There are only 2 parts to that formula. 1, humbly rely on God through prayer and meditation or whatever it is that you do. 2, behave the way you think God wants you to behave. That's all. So if I'm not experiencing serenity, which part of that 2-part formula am I not doing? Am I not humbly relying on God, or am I not behaving the way I think God wants me to behave? And the challenge for all of us is the voice in here is so big and so strong and so full of resentment and fear and remorse. There's no way I can ask God, well, what do you want me to be? How do you want me to be? And all I hear is me talking to me about me. That's why we have to go through the house cleaning. I've run out of time. So I'm going to talk about number 4 next week, because we have a 10-step protocol, and some people call it the 10-step commandment. And it's a pretty awesome thing, I think. So I haven't had a chance to talk about the study guide, but I really earnestly advise that you print out these opening words, so you can participate in the readings if you want. We used to put them in the chat, but I'd rather you have the words in front of you. And I earnestly advise you to print the introduction to the study guide. It's available on the website. The website is wttbb.com, stands for Wandering Through the Big Book. You'll find information there, but particularly these PDFs. And if you have any trouble with it, email me, and I'll send you it directly from Google Drive where it is. And I'm always changing this thing. Maybe next week I'll get a chance to tell you the story of the development of this study guide. But it's really important to me. And as we go along, we're going to be flipping through. I want to explain to you how it's organized and how to work your way around it. And this is much easier to do on paper than it is to do electronically. And and I really want to try to pay attention. There's some really good stuff in there that comes from non-conference approved sources. And okay, so next week we're gonna talk about number 4, and we're gonna talk about the study guide, and our goal is getting to page 20 of the introduction to the study guide. So Jennifer's gonna stop the recording, and we're gonna have open discussion for 10-20 minutes.